Hello, I'm Chief Meteorologist Bruce Thomas of KCEN-TV. We'd like to welcome you to our coverage of the tornadoes of May 27, 1997. In the next 2 hours, we'll take you through a series of events, starting with the first tornado touchdown outside the city of Hewitt and progress all the way through the city of Jarrell down in Williamson County. We'd like to thank you for making a donation to the Tornado Relief Fund, and also we'd like to thank Sam's Club of Belmead and Vaughn Duplication Service for providing the duplicating of this tape with the free tapes provided by Sam's. Now, KCEN's support team has been very good at helping put this together. We'd like to thank all of our production staff and technical staff that's worked very hard to get this information out to you. So I hope over the next 2 hours you'll enjoy our coverage of the I-35 tornadoes. Now, we'll get started with the first tornado that occurred outside the city of Hewitt. The initial tornado warning came at 1:21 from the National Weather Service in Fort Worth via a storm spotter, Lon Curtis, who was following the severe thunderstorm out of McLennan County. We'll go to our video coverage of when the initial tornado hit the ground here at the I-35 Broadcast Center using our sky cam from the roof of our station. Here we go with that video now. Large area, tornado, right over Interstate 35 as it looks like now. Coming out of Hewitt, right there. Moving out towards Interstate 35, so from Hewitt to Lorena and eventually over towards Robinson, and then moving on over towards Highway 77 is the path of this storm. So you can see here's Robinson, here's Hewitt, Interstate 35. Tornado going to move right across 35 just north of Lorena and then head on down into southeastern McLennan County. Let's go back to Skycam, see if this thing's holding together. It's still a tornado. There it is right there on Skycam. You can see how hazy it is out this afternoon. There's a lot of humidity out there. You can see right here the tornado will continue to move down towards the southeast. Persons in Hewitt, Robinson, and Lorena, take cover. This is a big tornado. It's a large tornado. You can see right there Skycam detecting this tornado as it's moving towards the southeast at 15 miles an hour, and it's definitely picking up a lot of debris, causing a lot of damage. Persons in the path of this storm should take cover immediately. Now, as we come back to the coverage of the tornado, the National Weather Service second tornado warning was issued as of 1:26, just 5 minutes later for the city of Lorena. The tornado was actually located just about 3 miles west of Lorena on the ground, moving towards the southeast. The initial movement of the storm was southeastward, so that would put the storm right here moving towards the Bruceville Eddy area. And that's where we are here at the I-35 Broadcast Center. We're at extreme western Falls County, right here along the interstate. The tornado was moving directly towards our station at that time, and here's some of the video that we were able to take with our Skycam. If you're in a mobile home right now in western Falls County, you need to get out right now and find a more substantial structure. This is a serious situation. We've had several tornadoes on the ground earlier, and it's real hard to see, but maybe a tornado trying to come down there. It's hard to detect because of the darkness of the clouds, but a tornado warning is currently under effect till 2 o'clock for southern McLennan County, and now until 2:15 for persons in western Falls County. There it is. There it is right there. That's it. They can see a little bit better outside with the naked eye. You know, if we open that one back door there and roll that camera that way, open that door right there and take the camera out there, we can get a direct shot of it. We lost power. We're back on now. Here it is, tornado on the ground. We're looking due west of Eddy. So this is coming out of McLennan County directly into Falls County. There's a tornado right there on the ground, and it's moving on the ground right outside the station here. Let's take one of the big cameras and point it out there. And tell everybody inside here that head to those cinder block bathrooms inside. Here's the actual tornado, and it's moving south, so this is going to carry it towards the Troy area. So persons in Troy, expect this tornado to be moving in your direction. Now, it's crossing from McLennan County into Bell County and eventually into Falls County as it looks now. But you can see it. It's on the ground, and it's moving slowly towards the southeast, but it's the real thing. Tornado warning now in effect still for southern McLennan County till 2 o'clock. And a tornado warning has now been issued by the National Weather Service for Bell County. Persons in Troy, Temple, and Pendleton should take cover immediately. A tornado is now moving out of McLennan County, moving into Bell County. The tornado never moved into Falls County. It moved just to the west of Falls County, heading south. Now at this time, large and damaging hail began to fall here at our I-35 broadcast center. Here's the video now. That's just west of Eddy, just west of Interstate 35, and it's moving almost due south. So a person's in Troy. If you live between Eddy and Troy, take cover immediately. If you're in a mobile home, get out. Find a safe place. If you don't find a safe place and the tornado is right at your house, the best thing to do is go ahead and find a ditch and lie flat in a ditch and let this thing pass. Most people are killed. Look at the debris circling around this tornado. Look at it. Man, it's a big one. Huge tornado. It's very close to the station. It's within a mile of us, I believe. You can see there's some houses here. It's on the ground, moving out of McLennan County. Can we go to radar here just for a minute and see what the latest radar picture shows us? Okay, here it is, crossing right now, right on the Falls, McLennan, and Bell County line. There's the tornado right there. It's going to cross right in here. It's heading south. It may actually come on into Temple, but it's going to head to Troy first. Let's go back to the live Skycam now. Look at this thing. Massive tornado. Here's Temple, Troy, and Pendleton. Here's the area that will be producing the tornado. Here's the large hail shaft. All this moving south. It's getting a little hard to talk right now because the hail's hitting so hard here in the building, but we're here in Eddy. Actually, our studio's right here, moving south and continuing to move towards Temple. If you're in Temple, if you got a place you can put your car, protect it from this large hail. All right, let's go to this. Let's go to camera 2. Let's go to camera 2. Here's what's going on outside on the weather deck right now. That is a hailstorm. Somebody roll tape on this in the back, please. We got tape rolling? Good. Look at these hailstones. Baseball-sized hail. We're all getting new cars out here. I better call my insurance agent. We have some exclusive home video shot by Sandy Silva. He was 5 miles southeast of Moody, taking this video we're about to show you. I think you'll enjoy it very much.
The sirens in town are going off. What? The sirens in town just started going off. I'll be back in a minute. Debbie! 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 Come here! It's headed right there, right this way.
Well, where do you want us to go?
We're going to go that way. Come on. Would you come on? It's headed right at us.
We cannot get out of here. Get over here.
Get inside, Duke. Come on, Duke. Come on. Get inside. It's gonna hit us. Power's gone. There went the power lines. There went some more power lines. You can feel the wind start to kick up here. You can start to hear it now. It's getting stronger and it's moving faster. I'm going around to the front.
It's going to sideswipe us, but
I think it's already knocked out power lines. Power out here. Prissy, get inside.
Prissy, come here. Damn. Come here.
Look at the debris flying all around it. There goes trees. Look at the top. He's right over the hill. I'm gonna go out to my truck and get my phone so I can, just in case. Look at it. I went to go get the phone, because if we lose power, that one ain't gonna work.
she said she's going to get her oil changed, and I don't know where she's going to get it changed at. She should have her portable phone on. Does she not? Okay. Bye. Okay, well just calm down, Barbie, and well, I told Mother there's a big storm coming up.
Never dreamed of this.
Okay, bye.
That phone's dead.
No, it's not.
What was that beep?
I'll get the wrong button.
Oh.
I don't think it's going to hit us, Grandma.
No, it's not gonna hit us.
Big in the beginning.
Boy, you ain't kidding.
Sally calls it, y'all can get your ass down there, but I'm trying.
This one started out little. And then oh, that's a monster. Uh-oh. It's getting real close now. I feel sorry for anybody in the way of this thing.
Mom, there.
What?
You better keep her there. Because
It's not far.
it's not far.
It's
Got Grandma.
We've got Grandma taken care of.
Oh, got blankets and pillows and everything. Kicking up.
Look.
We got Sandy's getting it all on video, but it's tearing.
It just hit, that's a house.
The house is just all docked around.
It just leveled that house.
Alright, y'all got about, I'd say, 10 minutes.
If it doesn't dissipate. Here comes the debris, look.
Here, the debris is already falling here. Okay, bye. Mom just got there.
Okay. Oh my. Looky, looky. Oh. So am I.
Hello? Yeah. Alrighty, get high? I got Mom in the hallway. I've already got her. Alright, bye.
Look at that base.
That thing switches on us. We're stupid for standing out here.
No, it's about 5 miles away. Or at least it looks 5 miles away. Oh man, look at that. The most devastating sight to man. Hello?
Who are you talking to?
Nobody. Ain't nobody answered yet. There it goes. It's going back. No, it ain't either. Oh man. It's ripping up trees, everything. There goes some more trees. Here comes the rain. Oh, gotta get some dry weather. Here. Oh man, looky. Right there between. Oh, here comes the debris. Lots of leaves. Yeah. No, it's past the water towers. I can't see on the other side of the towers no more. It's far enough away. It's going back up. No, it ain't. You can't see it in between there, but on the ground it's still going. See it? See all these leaves and stuff coming in? There it goes. See it right there? Let's see if I can zoom in. Oh, look at that thing.
It's not very far off.
No.
It's not even a mile off.
It hit a house. It's gone.
No, it ain't.
Yeah, it's almost gone. No, it ain't. It's still ground level.
You can go ahead and sit on the couch there, Mom.
Yeah, it's far. It's.
I think you go ahead and sit on the couch.
It's still coming.
They call it, get Mom out of that house. I said, we got it under control, eh?
Woo! Look at that.
Charlie's at Mom. Get the house.
Charlie's at Barbie's.
Charlie's at Barbie.
It's gone.
Yeah.
There goes part of that house. God. See it? The tin and the stuff off the house. Look.
We're crazy standing out here.
It's gone.
It is now 2:15 in the afternoon of May 27th. The tornado has moved out of McLennan County and into Bell County. Storm now moving towards the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. The National Weather Service storm spotters in Bell County are now locating the storm along Highway 317 and Sutherland Road at 2:15. If you live in Moffett or Morgan's Point Resort, take cover immediately. This video given to us by Beverly Teague from Morgan's Point is of the tornado as it hits the marina and moves across the lake. That's the actual tornado coming down to Lake Belton, Morgan's Point, Moffett. If you're in that area around Lake Belton, definitely take cover immediately. This thing's on the ground, still being reported by spotters and by radar, so it's a serious situation. So it looks like that may pass just off towards the west of Temple. We may be fortunate of that, but persons around Lake Belton, you need to take cover immediately. It is now 2:30 in the afternoon on May 27th. The tornado has moved out of McLennan County into Bell County and now bearing down on Morgan's Point and Moffett. The National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for that area, and now the tornado is progressing on to the south on past Morgan's Point. Now, the damage left in its path was incredible, and this video we're about to show you came from Sheriff Dan Smith's office of the damage to Morgan's Point Marina. This was shot 2 days after the tornado hit, but the damage is incredible to the boats that were in the marina.
Negative amount on the boat.
It's now just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The tornado is progressing towards the south. It has lifted momentarily as it goes over the Belton High School and Expressway 190. Progressing towards the south now at 10 to 15 miles an hour, a new tornado is formed and coming down over the Stillhouse Hollow Reservoir. David and Ann Frederick, along with their dogs, Peanut and Katie, are out looking at the storm and furnish us with this home video.
Definitely some problems this afternoon, and we're going to have a lot of, hopefully no fatalities, but there's a lot of injuries, I would think, from as much destruction as we've seen. Very close. You see the tight rotation right here, right over Salado, the latest frame right there, oranges and greens right together, coming into Williamson County, and the radar site's right here, looking right into the storm. It's still coming on down into Williamson County. Kerry, let's zoom it out a little bit. And let's go back up to Navarro County for just a minute and take a look at that other storm.
Go back in. That bang was just
There's definitely a tornado on this one. Just zooming on up.
After this, reports are coming in from tornadoes in all directions around Salado. We talked to numerous people in Salado that were taking cover from the storm. As it continued to move towards the south, it just moved about a mile west of Salado, hitting the community of Prairie Dale, creating quite a bit of damage there, but still not a deadly tornado at this point. The storm continued to progress on towards the south. This home video shot by Don Swallenuk, the Justice of the Peace from Holland, is very impressive as the transition of this storm goes from a small tornado into a monster killer tornado that will eventually hit Jarrell.
Jarrell or somewhere up here to shut it off.
Woo, it's getting wider at the base now.
Yes, sir.
Let me down some more. A whole lot wider at the base. Lower and lower. Look at the debris coming up around it. Wow, wow.
1403 County is coming right
Woo,
down.
it's really stirring it up now.
Eastbound toward the interstate. It's at Granger and Kirkendall and headed directly toward the interstate.
Goodness gracious. Is that towards Jarrell? Look how black it's getting now. It's letting down again.
Let this traffic go. It seems to either headed due north or something, but it stopped completely. 6591 Bell County. I'm gonna need some EMS.
Woo!
I got an injured.
Look at it bend. Look at that bend in it.
I've got a small child with a
See it breaking back towards the horizon, Don?
2-4, you're by Highway Auto, correct?
Tibor is to Hoyo.
Wow, that sucker's dancing.
315 Bell County.
Come on in.
315.
Be advised, we're doing a check on a guy that was supposed to
Rising up.
so we can locate him.
is. It's rising up now.
315, we did not understand.
Look at the stuff coming around it now.
Looking for a motor that possibly was caught in this storm.
Woo, she's doing some damage there. Still think she's going south. Southeast.
Possibly got caught in the storm.
I'm like you, I believe it's getting closer.
It is.
0.42,
4 back, keep on coming down. It's still on the ground, just southwest of Prairie Dale, but it's not moving east anymore.
It's coming east, Don. That's straightened back up now.
Somebody in 230 County, can you try channel 2?
It's generally heading to the south. I can see it moving along the ground.
Look at that tail on it now, how it's bent, Don. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Coming up. Coming up, coming up, coming up. Watch it go up. Up she went. Up back into the clouds. Lord help, look at that thing.
There it comes again.
Okay, it's headed back,
Going back down?
toward the interstate.
Man, this is something else.
Look at that wicker bell on it.
Is your Prairie Dale exit? Yeah, it'd be about 279, I believe, is where the storm is.
It's still touching the ground, Wayne, because I see debris.
Yeah, I see debris, but it's not, it doesn't have that sharp tail like that.
There, yeah, there, 2268.
It's forming back, looks like. Now. Debris, I guess that's just debris on the ground. Oh, look at it. It's still on the ground, Don. Look at that. Good. Racing's alive, look on the ground.
Yeah.
Come on down to 280, Perry. I believe 280
That
will be
another
all right. Just go across.
That's another one.
Huh?
That's another one and a bigger one.
Is that another one closer to us?
Okay, looks like it's
That's just an aftermath. Woo, it's forming again, Don.
280 to low end.
What's on the ground? What's happening?
Jim, does that tornado, is it still moving to the south or is it coming east? It's moving east very slowly.
You say moving east?
Weakened substantially, but it's just about to the interstate.
They're advising y'all need to take cover at this time.
Don, go ahead and roll the window up. You get swept.
2056. 1456.
Don, roll
What?
the window up.
It's an eighth of a mile wide now, and I'll let you know what direction it's going. It's very big. 2259's Glenn starts shutting them down here. I think they're stopping for us. Down there, Terry. Turns north.
No, that's a much bigger one. This one is much bigger.
Much closer.
Just come up here with me, 280. 280.
Now this 41D, this is an awesome tornado. It is heading, looks like south to southeast, and it is big.
So which one is he talking about? Talking about the one in the Bartlett Smith. Should be crossing the interstate, I think.
Towards 14 County, in area 280.
They shut down, and we don't have time to get him back to the other end.
He's far.
That one's tearing hell out of me.
4227.
The terrible tornado is moving out of Prairie Dale on into the community of Jarrell. We pick it up with video coverage from Wayne Persky of Persky Farms in southern Bell County. Wayne was looking at this storm from about 4 miles east of Interstate 35, and he gives us this video. This tornado had an impact on the entire nation, bringing Dateline NBC and Jane Pauley in to report on this terrible tornado outbreak. Now we'll go to Jane Pauley with their report that was on national TV on May 30th, 1997.
At its peak, it was a half a mile wide with winds in excess of 260 miles an hour. It's been classified as an F5, the strongest, most damaging type of tornado. And what it did to the town of Jarrell, Texas is almost beyond belief, literally blowing one part of the community off the face of the earth. Rob Stafford on an afternoon of sheer terror, the Dateline minute by minute.
It's total, complete devastation. It looks like a war zone.
For some, there was no time to run and no place to hide.
I've seen burn victims and gunshot victims, but I've never seen anybody spread out 10 yards before.
By the time the battle was over, 62 homes were gone. The dead were still being counted, and the living were counting their blessings.
You see the movies and stuff, and you figure they're all exaggerated. I saw it, and I know it can pick up trucks and throw them through the air, and cows and animals and people and houses.
Here on Tornado Alley in Texas, people who didn't fear tornadoes before will never make that mistake again. People like Billy Williams.
I know now what a tornado can do. Now I do fear tornadoes. I didn't before, but I do now.
If Mother Nature had been planning this attack, she gave little warning to the people of Central Texas.
It was beautiful.
Noon on Tuesday. Billy Williams and his son Danny are at home in Jarrell, a town so small the locals say there are more livestock than people. Population 664, unaware of the danger looming over the northern horizon.
An hour before it all started, I was laying in the sun getting sunburned.
But 58 miles to the north, near Waco, conditions are becoming a concern to forecasters at the National Weather Service. A cool front is moving in and mixing with the warm, moist air hovering over central Texas. It's a dangerous combination.
Persons in Hewitt, Robinson, and Lorena, take cover. This is a big tornado. It's a large tornado.
1:24 p.m. The first tornado is sighted south of Waco. Live television coverage begins immediately. A tornado warning takes effect 48 miles north of Jarrell.
There's a tornado right there on the ground, and it's moving on the ground right outside the station here.
The warning is just in time for a family in the town of Moody. They race out the door at 2 o'clock, only minutes before a tornado tears their house apart. The storm is heading south and is 8 miles closer to Jarrell.
Look at the debris circling around this tornado. Look at it. Man, it's a big one.
But in Jarrell, no one seems worried yet. They're about to find out funnel clouds are in the next county. 3:20 p.m. A violent storm is forming just 26 miles away over the town of Temple. It begins moving south towards Jarrell. Billy Williams hears the warnings and something else. It is 3:45.
A sound I've never heard before. It's an evil howling. It's a real scary sound.
He and his son head for the most secure room of the house.
I started off in the bathtub, but when I landed, I didn't see a bathtub.
Down the road, Virginia Davidson is mowing her lawn. She has just enough time to get inside.
Went inside, I got a blanket and got in the bathtub and put it over me. I guess I was just waiting to die.
On the edge of town, Constable Gary Griffin is just pulling into the local truck stop as the tornado is ripping into Jarrell.
They were all scared. I was scared.
Griffin leads a group of 60 panicked people up this embankment to crouch under an overpass. He sees the tornado sprouting a series of funnel clouds.
Big one's over there, that one, there was another one over there, there was another one over there.
I was hearing this sound. It was like a bear growling.
Back at the Williams house, as father and son hear the twister pass, they rush down the road to help their neighbors. Even Billy, a 13-year veteran of Coast Guard rescues, can't believe what they find.
It was the most devastating thing I've ever seen. In all my years in search and rescue, I've never seen anything as devastating as that.
The monster tornado, now half a mile wide, plows a mile-long furrow through a neighborhood of about 3 dozen homes, some of them brick, flattening the subdivision in only minutes.
I expected to find something, and we didn't find anything, except for just wreckage and bodies.
The Williams find a mother and daughter buried in mud, but alive. Constable Griffin is also here, but the family he wants to rescue is beyond help.
She was a mom holding on to her. They were just holding each other. And they died that way.
The houses here are wiped off their foundations. Asphalt ripped right out of the road.
From the road off, it was just dirt and mud and wreckage.
Danny Williams and his father hope to rescue more people from the rubble, but they do not.
There was a younger girl, couldn't have been but 6 or 7 years old, and she was twisted in directions that she shouldn't have been.
Was there anything you could do for these people?
I didn't even bother to take any pulses because they were gone. I mean, just obviously, there was nothing anyone could do for them.
The winds here top 260 miles per hour, almost double the speed of a jet at takeoff. An F5 tornado, the most powerful type, like the monster created for the movie Twister.
Cow.
But the Twister in Texas was no Hollywood special effect. The animals flying through the air here were real. The winds strong enough to rip the hides from their bodies and flesh from bone.
It's hard to believe that you're looking at a patch of earth where literally the life was sucked out of it.
What creates this kind of power? Warm, humid air passing under fast-moving, cooler air. The differences in wind speed and temperature create a tube of spinning winds called a vortex. The danger comes when this tube hits a group of thunderstorms. Rain-cooled downdrafts can force the vortex to stand on end. As the vortex meets the ground, friction forces the winds to spin tighter, creating a funnel that sweeps up everything in its path. That is what's happening in central Texas Tuesday, and the storm is not over yet.
Just miss her out. Oh my gosh. My best friends that lived here.
At 4 p.m., the storm line is about to make its next stop. Cedar Park is 20 miles down the road in the suburbs of the state capital.
My car was shaking back and forth. Limbs are coming down. A bloody bird hit my windshield. It was just an unbelievable.
Yet another tornado. This one as wide as a football field, guts a shopping center and the Buttercup subdivision. All this in less than 8 minutes. Yet it pales in comparison to what Jarrell has suffered.
As of approximately 40 minutes ago, I left the location, the scene, and there have been 30 confirmed dead.
By 5:30, 4 hours after the first funnel cloud appeared, the worst is now over. In Jarrell, Sheriff Ed Richards briefs the press and the families.
There's so much debris, but we'll be searching all night long, and then we'll continue again in the morning.
Now the vigil and the questions begin. Was there enough time for the missing to take shelter? Was there any shelter for them to take? And where are they now?
I saw my neighbors right next to me outside looking at it, and we could all see it coming. And then I went inside and I never saw them again.
The search for survivors goes into the night. But by Wednesday morning, the death toll is dropping.
We are getting unconfirmed reports that people we thought were missing are in fact safe, but we do not have any record of it.
A list of survivors is posted at the church, but the name of Jarrell Gower's 11-year-old son, Brian, is not on it.
I hope he's still alive, and I hope that Mac's wife is still alive, too.
A makeshift morgue is set up at the fire department, but families are not allowed inside.
I just gave him a picture of my little boy, and they're going to match the picture I have of my little boy and the mugshots they take.
9 o'clock Wednesday night. Authorities are behind closed doors trying to match those photographs of the missing with the remains they recovered. For many families, the answers do not come from listening to the officials, but from looking at these pictures. In their hearts, they hope for a miracle, but their minds realize no one could survive this. Down in this valley, that is all that's left of Jarrell's Double Creek Estates. When the tornado jumped into the valley, there was no way out. Even though the town was hit by a twister back in 1989, most of the houses here have no basements and no shelters, because just underneath the soil is a layer of limestone, which is difficult and expensive to break through. Up the hill, the few people who did have shelters, some of them built 50 years ago, were packing them with friends and neighbors when the tornado hit.
2 times in 8 years is too many for me. You know, and if we're going to stay here, we're going to have a shelter.
As Billy Williams talks about building a shelter, many of his neighbors think about rebuilding their lives. On Thursday morning, people anxious to survey the damage find out that Double Creek is still closed off.
Everything is laying on the road and out in the fields, you know, and we can't go in there and get it.
Finally at noon, homeowners are allowed back in for the first time, but only because authorities are convinced all the bodies have now been found.
The 27 bodies that we've located and the 27 names that we have of people who are unaccounted for will match up eventually.
This morning, the first bodies of the dead are released to the families. Still scattered through town is debris. And if they needed a further reminder of the lives that were lost, tonight, another tornado has touched down near Waco.
It's really made me want to settle down and get my life in order. I can't stand thinking that I could have been one of those people.
One hopes that the worst for Texas is over. But the fact is, the most active month for tornadoes nationwide is the month of June, which only starts Sunday. And Texas can traditionally expect to get more tornadoes than any other state.
As the minutes tick by from 3:30 in the afternoon on May 27th, the events that have happened in Jarrell of an F5 tornado start to become true to the Central Texans. The death toll starts to rise to 7, eventually to 14, then topping out at 30. The next day on May 28th, we had a 1-hour special here on KCEN-TV from 4 to 5 in the afternoon. Joining us during the special was Jim Stepkovich, the warning preparedness meteorologist from Fort Worth that was issuing the tornado warnings as the storm progressed from Waco all the way to Jarrell. Here's some comments from Jim Stepkovich.
Yeah, Bruce, we've been looking at damage, and I've been throughout Bell County and down towards the Jarrell area this afternoon. The significant damage in Bell County that I've seen so far has been around Belton Lake. Probably an F2, maybe a lower end of an F3 tornado, which is winds of around 100 140 to 160 miles an hour. I will still be in process of surveying the damage when I get done with this interview.
We have some aerial photographs, Jim, that I'd like to show here, starting first with the path of the tornado and let you look at the actual graphics we have. Okay, we can't go to those graphics just yet. We will show those. In your calculations, and you just came from the Prairie Dale area, did you see more destruction in southern Bell County into the Jarrell area as you continued on your path this afternoon?
Well, as you have mentioned, and as Lon Curtis had seen and other spotters had seen yesterday, there were a number of touchdowns with these tornadoes. A lot of these occurred in open areas. Some of them have been very difficult to access just driving around, so I'm going to depend on aerial shots to make more of an assessment later on. But right now, what I have seen is in the Belton area. Of course, that is secondary to what's happened in Jarrell.
Okay, here's the first picture we're showing. This is of the aerial photograph that were given to us this afternoon by the Civil Air Patrol out of the wing at TSTC. These pictures were provided to us. This is an aerial view of some of the damage around Moody, just to the east of Moody, and we'll continue to progress on through these slides. Let's go to the next picture. This is Lake Belton. This is the marina. Now, what can you tell by looking at this picture of the marina by the damage you can assess by this?
That's where the initial touchdown occurred. Of course, the storm started up in McLennan County around the Hewitt area, but this particular tornado, developed around the marina and then traveled across the lake and then lifted shortly after going to the other side of Lake Belton. From then it lifted up, and then it produced more tornadoes as it got closer to Jarrell, and then finally Jarrell produced that large, devastating tornado.
Okay, we're going to go quickly to the I-7 computer here and just show you the path for the audience out there, the progression. And if you look from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, these are the progression of the movement of the storm and the different tornadoes that were reported. As you've made your survey this afternoon, these pictures will correspond with the 1, the 2, and the 3 as we're now at the picture number 2 as it's crossed into Morgan's Point. And we'll go back now to the aerial photographs and show you at point number 3. This is the actual video that came in generally around the Woodlands area at Morgan's Point, the subdivision. Let's go to the next aerial photograph and go ahead and comment on this picture. This is the Woodlands at Morgan's Point.
Right, that was the most significant portion of the damage with this particular tornado, rated again at the high end of an F2 to low end F3, again 140 to about 160 mile an hour winds, path width of about 150 to 200 yards.
Okay, I want to show you the next photograph we have as we move further south. This is from Prairie Dale. This picture was shot at Prairie Dale, and right there you can see there's a little building off to the left. That's a stables there. You just came from this area. What did you detect in the power of the tornado when it went through Prairie Dale?
This one was probably a short-lived tornado on an order of F0 to F1, winds of about 120 miles an hour or less from that photograph.
Okay, now here's the last photograph we have for you, starting, actually this is one of a series we'll show you of Jarrell. You can see this was taken at about 1,500 feet from an aircraft earlier this morning, looking down at these slabs. Now the next picture will take you in a very closer view of what is left of this subdivision. And what can you tell when you see this kind of destruction from an aerial photograph?
Yeah, unfortunately, that picture says it all. Basically, you wipe the slate clean, the slabs clean. The destruction is just so devastating that you'd need a violent type of tornado to produce that. Winds in excess of 200 miles an hour and probably closer to 250.
That's something. You know, Jim, I know you've been busy all day yesterday working with these warnings and then today down here surveying the damage. Is there anything you'd like to tell the people of Central Texas that from the National Weather Service officially about this event?
Well, obviously, we're very sorry that there was death and destruction. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about the formation of tornadoes. Just to get the information out, broadcast it as you have done yesterday. Excellent job in getting the information out to the public. And, you know, as we say, most tornadoes, and I stress most tornadoes, are survivable. Of course, when you get into a situation like this, the only thing you can do is get enough lead time where you can drive away to another place of safety.
Thank you so much for being with us, Jim, and I want to also thank you for all the hard work that the National Weather Service out of Fort Worth did in getting those warnings to us and letting me get them to the Central Texas area. And I believe our warning system is working well. We had lead time of 30 minutes on most of these storms. Is that about what you guys calculated?
Somewhere in the order of 20 to 30 minutes. We knew from the get-go that once storms started developing, they would become severe very quickly. We had been talking about that for the last couple of days. But again, it did all work well together. of Weather Service, and of course with you providing the information through KCEN, that we really appreciate that information getting out to the public to save lives and property.
Thank you. Jim Stepkovich, our warning preparedness meteorologist out of Fort Worth, Texas, and he was the gentleman actually issuing the warnings that I was on the air talking to the public about yesterday afternoon.
And Bruce, I can tell you, as I went around, I was through Central Texas following the path of the tornado, and as I stopped to get gasoline or to get directions, I can tell you that a number of people came up to me personally and said, please tell Bruce, and you folks out there, I'm telling them now, tell Bruce that we can't say enough how much we appreciate saving our lives. And these people, time after time, came up to me and said, Bruce is our favorite meteorologist, and we trust him with our lives. And today, yesterday, he came through.
Oh, definitely.
I appreciate that, Paul.
I've gotten the same kind of things myself.
I was actually, I'm just doing my job just like Jim Stepkovich was doing his job in Fort Worth and doing it what we've trained for. I've trained for the last 15 years to do what I did yesterday. And with gentlemen like Jim Stepkovich and the meteorologists in Fort Worth and storm spotters locally like Lon Curtis and our Temple Amateur Radio Club, we're able to get that information into me, and I was able to give it back to the public as quickly as possible. And we're going to have Lon Curtis here speaking with us from the newsroom in just a moment about, he was with this storm system when it first started in Hewitt, and he actually followed this all the way to Austin in his car. So he'll be coming up next after we take a break. Lon Curtis is with us now from the newsroom, and Lon was under this storm and stayed with it pretty much all afternoon. Lon, can you tell us about what you saw in the Hewitt area and then what developed as you moved southward?
Sure, Bruce. I was at my house about 12:30 and saw on the radar the storm was developing and decided that I'd like to come up and see what was going on with it. Came up Highway 317 to Moody and took FM 2113 toward Hewitt, and went through a couple of the hills and valleys that are there between Moody and Spring Valley, and came up out of one of the valleys, and right in front of me was a tornado that was on the ground about a half-mile away.
Lon, we're going to roll some video, actual radar sequence of the developing storm over McLennan County and how it moved over the afternoon. And here's the storm developing over Waco, and you can see it really growing and heading southward. Now, you were with this storm. How many hours did you spend with this parent storm?
Bruce, if you count 1:30 as the time that the tornado started, which is close to being correct, I was with that storm for 3.5 hours. I finally turned loose of it in Cedar Park after it had done the damage there.
Lon, the first tornado warning officially came out at 1:21 from the National Weather Service in Fort Worth, and I've been told by the National Weather Service that it was per a call from you stating that the tornado was on the ground as of 1:21. Can you tell us what you saw initially when the first tornado dropped?
Well, when I first saw the tornado, it was already on the ground. I was coming up out of one of the valleys, one of the creeks that runs through that area between Moody and Hewitt, and I had heard radio traffic on the spotter net indicating that someone thought there was something going on there, but I was approaching it from the clear side, and it was just obviously on the ground. It was throwing up a large dust cloud. While I watched it move through and destroyed a mobile home. And I stopped and tried to make some pictures after I had called the report into the Weather Service. After that tornado dissipated, I continued on around to Hewitt, got on the interstate, and came down to the Pendleton area to get in front of the storm system because the tornado was on the ground between Moody and Troy. And after that time, I stayed in front of the storm all the way down to Jarrell. It passed me south of Jarrell, and I then trailed it, trying to get back up to it down to Cedar Park.
We're going to show a graphic here, Lon, showing a series of tornadoes that you documented. How many actual tornadoes, different tornadoes, did you see during your expedition yesterday afternoon?
Bruce, I saw 6 different tornadoes. They were part of the same storm system. But there were 6 different tornadoes, the one near Spring Valley, the one between Moody and Troy, the one at Lake Belton in the Morgan's Point area, a brief tornado on the Stillhouse area, just east of Stillhouse Dam in the Lampasas River Valley, south of Belton. The tornado that began at Prairie Dell and moved down the interstate and became the Jarrell tornado. It really went through several transformations. And then there was a brief tornado south of Jarrell while the main tornado was on the ground in Jarrell.
You know, we have a whole series of tornado warnings here that last from McLennan County through Bell County and all the way into Williamson County. And I want to read this one from Williamson County quickly, and we're going to show the video. and I'll let you talk a little bit about that afterwards. Let's go now to the Jarrell tornado video that we have and show the actual monster tornado. Officially from the National Weather Service, Williamson County at 3:25, a tornadic thunderstorm is located 5 miles west of Jarrell, moving southeast at 10 miles an hour. This storm has a history of producing tornadoes and large hail. The city of Jarrell is in the path of this storm. That came out at 3:30 yesterday afternoon. Can you tell us what you were seeing at that time, Lon?
Yeah, I had, by that time I had moved from Prairie Dell down to Jarrell. This tornado began at Prairie Dell as a very narrow, thin tornado, and I had moved down to Jarrell because it accelerated toward the south and grew rapidly in intensity and size. I was on the very south side of Jarrell looking back to the north as the tornado moved into town, and it was an incredible sight. There were multiple vortices, smaller tornadoes rotating around the main storm and into it, and it was obvious that if it hit a populated area, it would do devastating damage. I had my fingers crossed that it would not hit a populated area, and obviously, unfortunately, it did.
Now, how far did you follow this storm on into Williamson County?
Well, this particular tornado eventually became rain-wrapped there at Jarrell, and then came out of the rain about 10 minutes later and dissipated. There had been a brief tornado south of Jarrell toward Georgetown that I had observed, and then I began trying to catch up with the storm, which was forming west of Georgetown, that ultimately moved into Cedar Park. I managed to get up close to it, but never to get in a position to see the tornado. I was in Cedar Park, I think, about 15 minutes after the tornado struck there.
Well, this is Paul also in the studio next to Bruce. And do you have an idea of what the feeling was like, an idea of the weather situation? It must have been very muggy. The conditions were so right. We had the very high humidity, the very high dew points. Could you absolutely just feel that this was a dangerous weather situation?
Paul, when I went out to get the paper at 7 yesterday morning, the air was so oppressive that you knew it was a day that if thunderstorms developed, they would be extremely intense. You couldn't predict, I couldn't predict that the storm would develop or where it would develop, but you knew that if it did, it would be a wild day, and that certainly proved to be the case.
Now, the number of tornadoes, you said you saw a number of different tornadoes, 6 different tornadoes, but they were all spawned by the one parent storm. is that correct?
Yeah, that's a layman's answer. I think technically the storm regenerated itself as it moved southwestward, and you probably, unless you're a meteorologist or someone that's chased storms for years, you wouldn't know the difference. The same system moved due south, or actually a little west of due south, right down the interstate for a period of 3.5 hours, and produced multiple tornadoes as it went.
Lon, I want to thank you so much for all the work you did yesterday. You helped me and what I do here at KCEN, and I think together we were able to get the information out to the public and to the National Weather Service for their help in this task of getting these warnings out. And I want to thank you personally for helping me and helping save lives yesterday afternoon.
Thank you, Bruce. My only regret is that there were people who either didn't get the warning or who were in the path of a devastating tornado, and there wasn't anything they could do.
Thanks, Lon.
Yeah, it was just so devastating that there's nothing you can do.
No, and he was very close himself, so we should thank him very much.
While he was taking photographs in Jarrell, or near Jarrell, the debris, he was about half mile away from the tornado when it was on the ground. The debris was actually hitting his pickup truck. That's how close he was to this. And he documented for research matters exactly the movement of this storm. And I'm sure for years to come, people will study this storm. We tell people to take cover, but when you see the video and the shots we've shown of the aerial photographs where these foundations on the home are clean, and there's nothing left. Even if they were taking cover in their home, most of the people did not survive that. But it's just from the sheer power of this specific tornado that moved out of Bell County into Williamson County that will be documented and studied for years.
I just have a very quick question. Is there anything about Jarrell, being that it was hit 8 years ago, about the topography of the land or something that makes the storm just whip up?
It's in Central Texas. Any spot in Central Texas could have a tornado. I just say Jarrell may be unlucky in this. The tornadoes were moving in opposite directions. The 89 tornado, I believe, was moving northeast, and this tornado was moving south-southwest, completely opposite directions. I just think it's in a bad it's not a bad spot. It just
Right.
was an unlucky area. Because any area could have, anywhere in central Texas, it could be Waco again.
Really?
1953, Waco still holds the record for the deadliest tornado in the history of the state of Texas at 114 deaths. And that's the kind of thing we keep telling people about here. You've got to have a plan of action for your family. When we tell you there's a tornado warning, you need a plan of action. If it's going into the interior of your home, if you have a tornado shelter, an in-home tornado shelter, a basement, if you're in a mobile home, have a place to go that's much safer, stronger, and then hopefully the tornadoes won't be as strong as this one was, because this is total destruction. And no matter what kind of structure you were in, likely you would have sustained injury or death.
Especially yesterday.
Down in Jarrell.
Well, thanks, Bruce.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks.
it.
Now, coming up, Lisa Heitman will take you through our coverage, our team coverage here at KCEN-TV of the events that occurred in the weeks after the tornado. Lisa Heitman will take you through a series of stories, very dramatic stories about the lives of people that were changed by this outbreak of tornadoes. Now, I'll be back at the end for a few final comments.
Tornado 1.5 north of Jarrell? Yes. Take cover. It looked like a real large one, but it could get big. And it's like coming our way. Thank you for caution. We wonder if we can get just the bell to go off or something so people will know.
West County 911?
Yes, we have a tornado right over Jarrell, right on top of us.
Okay, ma'am. Are you where you can get to some cover?
Yes.
Go get.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to KCEN-TV's special coverage of the I-35 tornadoes. The tornadoes that ravaged the area between Waco and Jarrell May 27th made a lasting impression on all Central Texans. Now, the threat of severe weather can strike fear in the bravest heart. Now, even though personal possessions and even lives were lost, the storm still managed to bring out the best in Texas, its people. Folks throughout Central Texas are pulling together to help rebuild after the devastating storms. So we are dedicating this hour-long special to all the volunteers who prove once again that the biggest thing in Texas is heart. Now, even at dawn, Tuesday, May 27th, was a hot, humid day. In fact, those people who later played a key role in chasing the storms or surviving them say something about the weather that day felt ominous. But when did it all come together and where? Paul O'Leary joins us now from Jarrell with the timeline of the I-35 tornadoes.
Thanks, Lisa. The twisters that damaged Central Texas 2 weeks ago did their worst destruction here at the Double Creek subdivision in Jarrell. But when and where did the deadly storms come from? Well, one local storm spotter said he saw the first signs of trouble on his home internet radar site between noon and 1 o'clock. And decided to drive to McLennan County to see the developing storms firsthand. By doing so, he drove right into the I-35 tornadoes.
I went about 5 miles northeast of Moody. For those of you that don't know the road, it's up and down through several different creek valleys. And I came around a curve and up a hill, and as I did that, I saw a tornado on the ground about 2 miles in front of me.
Lon Curtis has been chasing storms for years. Now he would put that experience to the test when what would become the I-35 tornadoes began in McLennan County.
I immediately reached for the cellular phone and called the National Weather Service in Fort Worth to report that there was a tornado, that it was northeast of Moody, near Spring Valley, and that I was in the immediate vicinity.
Now Lon is also in contact with Bruce Thomas, who begins his 6-hour marathon coverage of the I-35 tornadoes. Using Skycam, Bruce can actually see the first twister touch down south of Spring Valley.
There it is right there on Skycam. You can see how hazy it is out this afternoon. There's a lot of humidity out there. You can see right here the tornado will continue to move down towards the southeast. Persons in Hewitt, Robinson, and Lorena, take cover. This is a big tornado. It's a large tornado.
While Bruce keeps his eye on the first tornado with Skycam, Lon is still there, now at the intersection of 2113 and Mackey Ranch Road. He also has his camera.
And while I was there, the tornado actually began to cross Mackey Ranch Road. It took out a mobile home, which was about 3/4 of a mile south of that intersection. And then it began to dissipate.
The first tornado was quickly replaced by another, even more dangerous twister. Bruce sees it come to life right outside the station's back door.
On the ground, right outside the station here, let's take one of the big cameras and point it out there. And tell everybody inside here that head to those cinder block bathrooms inside.
Some amazing home video shows the cyclone as it intensifies and begins its onslaught on the Moody area. Skycam now provides some of the most dramatic pictures thus far. Meantime, Lon is trying to move ahead of the storm. While Lon has seen some of the damage in McLennan County, he hasn't seen it all. Besides the mobile home, a barn and a residence are hit hard. Rich Field was one of the first reporters on the scene at the Slentz home in Moody.
Progressed down through the Moody area, causing so much damage. 2 homes destroyed.
Bill and Carolyn Slentz's home is destroyed when the tornado rips through the Moody area.
If you didn't know the house was blown away, it'd be like camping out. So it could be at a state park, not know the difference.
Just taking a little holiday.
Yeah, just taking a little holiday.
After the storm passes through, this is what is left of the home that they have lived in for over 20 years. A car from inside a workshop is tossed over 50 yards into what was once their kitchen. The house and almost everything in it is a complete loss.
You know, it's frustrating when you can't find anything, and we keep losing things, and just because it's, you know, confusion, there's no place for anything, so that's frustrating.
Bill and Carolyn are living with their son and his family down the road in Eddy while they rebuild. And even though their home is gone, they feel like they are some of the lucky ones.
Nobody got hurt here. You know, we lost everything, but nobody got hurt.
It's just hard to feel too bad about a house when the devastation like that at Jarrell was just, it's unbelievable. I mean, there was no loss of life, so, you know, you just pick up and start over again.
This is about all that's left of Bill and Carolyn's home, but the storm that came through here and destroyed everything that they owned also made them realize how much they truly have. Reminiscent of community barn raisings of the past, neighbors, friends, and Bill's co-workers at Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad are volunteering their time to help rebuild.
That's our plans, the shower, commode.
They're rebuilding the shop where Carolyn and Bill plan to live while rebuilding their home.
It could happen to me or neighbors or anybody else, so we have to be helpful toward one another, and we want to get him on his feet again, because then he can go on with his life and we'll go on to our lives and go on back to our normal things.
Carolyn describes the tornado's damage as only an interruption in their lives, an interruption that has reminded them of how much they have, how much they had to look forward to, and how much goodness is left in the world.
So many times on the news and on TV, it seems like so much is focused on the bad that you get to thinking that's the norm and the world's going to the dogs, and then something like this happens and you see that that's probably the minority.
In Moody, Rich Field reporting.
By now, it is about 1:45 in the afternoon, and the National Weather Service issues a tornado warning for Falls County. Just 6 minutes later, they issue another warning, this time in Bell County.
I was beginning to sense that this storm was going to very likely produce a series of tornadoes.
Lon's hunch is on the money. Folks in Bell County now hear sirens wail as new funnel clouds appear. Lon is also there, now warning emergency officials as he arrives in the Belton area.
And by the time I got to FM 439, the lake road going out to Belton Dam, tornado was on the ground at Morgan's Point, a different tornado. That was at least the third tornado that this storm produced.
The fourth and fifth tornadoes come together after Morgan's Point, near Highway 190, and again over Salado. It's now after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Hailstones continue to pound Bell County, so some drivers find cover under overpasses on I-35. Back at the station, Bruce continues to warn of danger.
Spotters reporting tornado on FM 2268 on the ground. South of Salado.
It turns out that warning is one of the last ones for Bell County. But weather spotter Lon Curtis believes the outbreak will continue further south on I-35 towards Williamson County. In the end, several sections of Bell County are damaged by the tornadoes. The Morgan's Point area, Temple Lake Park, parts of Belton and Salado are all damaged by the twisters. We sent Marion Young to take a closer look at what happened.
This is what Rocky Lane looked like after a tornado ripped through the Temple Lake Park area May 27th. And this is the Morgan's Point Marina after it was hit. But after a few weeks, the cleanup effort has made a definite difference in these areas. On Rocky Lane, the cleanup effort was assisted by volunteers. How do you think how has the community supported these people, or have they?
I think we've had fantastic relief. We've had church groups. We've had teenage groups from Fort Hood come out. We've had the prisoners from Gatesville come out. We've had the Texas Highway Department personnel come out. I think once everybody got to know what went on out here and how much damage was done, then all this help started coming in.
And they all worked together to clear debris and help residents pick up the remnants of their belongings. And although there's still much to be done, they've come a long way. And the boats that were once scattered across the marina have now been moved to higher ground. And work is underway to clear the lake of any remaining oil and fuel. But not all the cleanup effort has come from volunteers. Government departments and agencies have also done their part. You think everyone's come together pretty well to get all this cleaned up and help these people out here?
You betcha. I mean, we're working, our crews, TDC, Bell County, and no telling how many civilian people on a day-to-day basis. You come out here when it was, before we really got it partly under control, there's no telling how many people here was in the daytime. Yeah. I mean, they just come out here and grab chainsaws and put stuff through chippers. At one time we over here we run 4 chippers at a time, and 1, 2, 3, 4 loaders at a time.
What do you think that says about the human spirit?
It is really uplifting. You know, it brings people together, and all these people come out here and help each other. It brings the community close together.
Piles of logs and trash cover this land that was once covered by trees and dotted with homes. Residents know it will take a long time, but they plan to come back here to rebuild their homes and their lives. Reporting from near Morgan's Point, I'm Marion Young.
The damage in Bell County is widespread. Meantime, Bruce continues his marathon effort to track the tornado outbreak and issue up-to-the-minute advisories. But the storms are reaching full strength now, and it is after 3 p.m. Weather spotter Lon Curtis moves into Williamson County.
Tornado began at Prairie Dell as a very narrow, thin tornado.
All this time, Lon is maintaining constant contact with both Bruce and the National Weather Service. They issue warnings about the situation.
Williamson County under a tornado warning till 4:30. As this storm moves out of Bell County into Williamson County, we have several storm spotters that are giving us information this afternoon that are following this.
It's now that it becomes clear exactly where the tornado will strike next.
A tornadic thunderstorm is located 5 miles west of Jarrell, moving southeast at 10 miles an hour. This storm has a history of producing tornadoes and large hail. The city of Jarrell is in the path of this storm.
What Bruce sees on radar, Lon sees in person.
I had moved down to Jarrell because it accelerated toward the south and grew rapidly in intensity and size. I was on the very south side of Jarrell looking back to the north as the tornado moved into town, and it was an incredible sight. There were multiple vortices, smaller tornadoes rotating around the main storm and into it, and it was obvious that if it hit a populated area, it would do devastating damage. I had my fingers crossed that it would not hit a populated area, and obviously, unfortunately, it did.
What Lon could not see firsthand was the full force of Mother Nature unleashed. An F5 tornado completely wipes away the Double Creek subdivision here in Jarrell. I was here that night at the high school auditorium as the death toll climbed from 9 to 14 and even as high as 30 at one point. Virginia Brody was here the next day.
This was Judy Johnson's backyard before the tornado hit. This is after. Behind her truck, you can make out the roof of the home next door before the storm. This is after. Here's her truck. And this was Judy's back porch before.
I almost wish that they would have left my Chinese.
And after. Like everyone else in Double Creek Estates, she returned home to nothing.
Did you know where your house was?
No. If it wouldn't have been for this, if it hadn't been for this porch right here, I don't know whether I could have really told.
This is ground zero 2 weeks after the storm. A grove of 100-year-old oak trees are stripped bare. At Double Creek, they're ripped apart. An entire neighborhood has disappeared.
Where that pickup is running right about there, you know, along that fence line or the pole line there, there were like 2 rows of houses coming down.
It's here that Jarrell Scout Troop 435 looked for people rebuilding so they can deliver informational flyers.
Do you know who lived where? Not really. Far beyond. Igos, right down there. The Igos, I think, lived right over there that way. And then I think the Smiths or Carmona, I think the Carmonas lived over there, right there.
Clay Duvall and his older brother Donnie rode the bus down this road twice a day. The only way they can pick out where their classmates had lived is by counting wreaths.
It's going to be hardest when the first day of school.
Yeah, the first day of school when you look around and there's this and then someone you've seen there 2, 3, 4 years in the past,
they're absent.
And they're not there, and you'll think, they must be sick. And then you'll remember.
When you drive down this area now to go home, what goes through your mind?
Well, all the people that I lost as friends and thinking what I could have done to get them out of there.
I don't think there's anything anybody could have done.
No, there's some things you could have done some way. If I would have known it was coming this way, I would have probably loaded them all up in a truck, took them down to my house or something.
As the storm moved in, Jason Casey took shelter at his home, about a quarter of a mile away.
I've never seen a tornado before, never heard one. Never thought it'd be that big or anything. I thought that might have been something small.
What he witnessed was an F5 tornado, the largest of them all. As shown in this home video, you can see how the powerful storm sucks in air from all directions, flattening the cornfields. The view Jason had was much different.
It was so dark, and rainy, you couldn't tell if it was a mile away or if it was a quarter mile away. You couldn't even see a definite form of it like you could far away. It was just almost black. You could barely see the debris flying around. Didn't think that there'd be nothing even on the slabs. Figured, you know, there'd be wrecked homes like the Warhurst house over there.
This total destruction is a sharp contrast to most of the town. The storm didn't touch it. Here life appears to be returning to normal.
The town's biggest loss is its 27 people, sometimes missed in small ways, when they don't show up for coffee, for example, or church on Sunday morning.
Everywhere are reminders.
You remember the Igos a lot just by driving down Main Street because they owned a shop down there, and you see that, and they were usually out there buzzing around, and there's never any activity there hardly anymore.
When you go to school, it's going to feel very empty.
My best friend is not here today. She was really a special person. The world has lost a whole lot because Cindy Mooring isn't alive anymore.
In addition to losing her home and everything inside, Judy lost her next-door neighbors. The entire family and so many others wiped away by a storm which raked a neighborhood down to its foundation and left a scar this town will bear for years to come. In Jarrell, Virginia Brody.
In the end, the tornado's winds were just too strong for even these homes to withstand. 27 people who stayed died here. Some had seen and survived another tornado only 8 years before in this same small town. But like folks in Jarrell did in 1989, residents here will somehow pick up the pieces and somehow continue living. In Jarrell, I'm Paul O'Leary. Now back to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Paul. Well, as Paul said, 27 people lost their lives when the tornado struck Jarrell, most of them from one single neighborhood, whole families at a time. But miraculously, some residents of the Double Creek estates did survive. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at 2 Jarrell families. Both decided to brave the tornado in their homes, but only one lived to tell about it. Welcome back to our special coverage of the I-35 tornadoes. Now, as you know, the Double Creek estates in Jarrell took the brunt of the storm that day. But once the dust had settled, this already small Texas town was 27 people smaller. Whole families were struck down as they huddled in their brick homes for safety. The Igos were one such family. It was Tuesday when the monster came, a giant beast, a twister so powerful it literally sucked up a neighborhood of 50 homes, leaving behind just bits of debris. But this is not the disaster. The disaster is the broken hearts of those left behind. Larry Igo was working in his auto parts store when his wife Joan called in a panic, saying a twister was on the way. Larry jumped in his car, drove home, and got there just in time to be with his wife, twin boys John and Paul, and his daughter Audrey. Seconds later, all 5 were killed.
I don't know a thing good in Jarrell that this family wasn't involved in.
With them, a piece of the community died as well.
Oh, he had a heart as big as Texas. That man, you could call him any time, day or night, no matter how tired he was, and tell him you had a problem, you need to talk to him or what, and he wouldn't say come by the house, he'd say I'll come to your house. He was that type of man. And Joan was the same way. Joan, if anything was going on, Joan said, how can I help, what can I do? The kids, the same way.
If you were in trouble, Audrey would be right next to you, helping you figure out what was wrong and trying to make it better. And the boys would do that too.
This was Larry's prized possession, an old Chevy convertible he'd restored. Till May 27th, it was valued at $35,000. There was also this old Chevy.
This was going to be the twins' car, 15-year-olds. They were getting ready to restore it.
But it was love for each other, love for the community in which they lived, and a deep belief in God that made the Igo family special to Jarrell.
I don't understand, and maybe someday I'll understand as to why my brother and his whole family were taken. But I know that if they were going to go, they would have wanted to go this way together. There's just this huge gap, you know, where there used to be a brother and a sister-in-law and 3 great nieces and nephews. There is a giant gaping hole that we can never repair.
Buildings are built with bricks. Communities are built with the hearts of people. This town has lost at least some of its heart.
They were excellent people. There's going to be a big hole in the community now.
Not everyone in the Double Creek estates shared the fate of the Igo family. Gabriel Hernandez and his family were spared that day, but only after learning a valuable lesson 8 years earlier, and only after years of planning and preparation. Heather Hudgens explains.
Beneath the debris and the dirt lies a thick limestone bedrock, and digging a basement here would be difficult and costly. But Gabriel Hernandez is one of the few who found a way.
Just rocks and concrete around, but nothing left.
This was the Hernandez family's second hit by a tornado. The twister 8 years ago leveled their trailer home, but after that, Gabriel set out to make his family safe. With little more than a pickaxe and a 5-gallon bucket, he dug an underground shelter through the floor of their home, just 7 feet by 9 feet. It's hard to see now through all the debris.
To finish it and pour the slab on top, it was, I'm going to say, close to 2 years. Yeah, digging and digging and digging.
While he was driving his truck to work, the storm bore down on his wife Maria and 3 kids at home. Together with another family from the neighborhood, they huddled down inside their basement while the storm blew away the world above them. Their house collapsed, but their basement held. They were among the only people to survive from the entire Double Creeks Estate neighborhood, and the only one in this subdivision with a basement.
Very glad to have my babies and my wife. Yeah. So I lost everything, but you know, I got my family. That's what I'm happy.
The Hernandez family believes they were blessed by God. The fact is, they also had protection, something no one else in the subdivision had. In Jarrell, I'm Heather Hudgens.
The Hernandez family is a living example of how to survive a tornado. But how familiar are you with severe weather safety tips? Up next, we'll tell you what you need to know to keep your family safe during a tornado when our special coverage continues. Welcome back to our special coverage of the I-35 tornadoes. We're all familiar with basic tornado safety. Get to a basement or an inner room in your house. Don't try to outrun a tornado. But many people in Jarrell followed these tips and still lost their lives. Does that mean the advice is incorrect? Officials say no. The tips are valid in most cases because F5 tornadoes, like the one that struck Jarrell, are very rare. In fact, there have only been 3 F5 tornadoes reported in the United States in the past 10 years. Kevin Barrett has more on how to weather a tornado.
The destruction in Jarrell was so complete that in a matter of minutes, the storm erased an entire subdivision. Before the tornado struck, there were about 40 homes in the Double Creek neighborhood. Now, there are none. Even the debris from the wreckage blew away. This is where almost all of the people died. What if these 40 homes had been built with basements or tornado shelters? Would it have made a difference? Could those inside have survived the storm if they had been underground?
Basements in Central Texas is very uncommon.
County engineer Joe England says a thick limestone bedrock lies just a few feet underground, and digging a basement here would be difficult and costly. So what's the alternative? Engineers at Texas Tech University are convinced it's possible to survive the biggest tornadoes above ground, and you don't have to build a basement. With something called the tornado cannon, engineers can simulate tornado-strength destruction. Using a piece of lumber similar to debris normally found in tornadoes, watch what happens as it's loaded into the tornado cannon and fired at a wall typical of those found in many homes.
3, 2, 1.
This is what tornado damage looks like up close in laboratory conditions. Debris stabbed through a brick wall as though it's made of paper.
This is really the greatest threat to life safety in a tornado is the flying debris.
In an actual tornado, it's not just a single piece of lumber flying through the air, but thousands of pieces of glass, metal, bricks, and trees. Everything in the tornado's path becomes a deadly projectile. Is there anything that can stand up to that? Watch as the same 15-pound projectile rockets through a specially reinforced wall of steel, concrete, and cement. There isn't the slightest bit of visible damage to the wall, but the projectile itself is shattered. According to engineers, material like this would be used to line 4 walls and the ceiling of a room of a house, like a closet or any room big enough to provide temporary shelter above the ground. Steel bars bolted to the foundation of the home would anchor it down. A shelter like this cost $3,000 for a house already built, $2,000 to build it into a new home. Dexter Sternberg used a different design from Texas Tech for his new home in Robinson. His shelter uses 4 sheets of plywood which surround an interior bathroom. The finished product blends in with the new home and will provide protection for his family. But what do you do if there's no access to a shelter? Emergency management officials say follow a few simple rules. If you're in a solidly constructed home, move to the center of your house or get into a bathroom, away from windows. Here's why.
This pile of rocks is all that's left of the living room of this home, a room that was on the outside of the structure. Not a good place to be during the tornado. But come over here and look at this. This is the interior hallway. And in this room, we have at least 2 to 3 walls between us and the outside of the building where the tornado was.
If you're in a mobile home, get out and seek shelter. Seek a ditch, bridge, or some structure sound enough to provide some protection. Being in a mobile home is no safer than being in a car. And if you're in a car as a tornado approaches, get out of the car. A car is a very unsafe place to be when a tornado hits. Tornadoes can roll cars like tumbleweeds. So if you're driving and a tornado is imminent, get out of your car and take cover next to the sturdiest structure available. If possible, take shelter under an overpass. If there is no overpass nearby, lie in a ditch. Get low next to something solid. If there is absolutely no shelter or cover nearby, go to the lowest spot you can find and get on the ground, covering your head with your arms.
When we come back, we'll show you the rebuilding process. Volunteers are making all the difference to families trying to start over after having their lives turned upside down. Stay with us. You may have seen signs around town asking for donations for tornado victims, or you may have volunteered your time to help clean up and rebuild shattered houses and lives. But the volunteer effort in Central Texas is much more than just you and me, and the help being given is more valuable than you can imagine. LeQuin has more.
Ever since last month's devastating tornado ripped through the small community of Jarrell, thousands of volunteers and disaster groups have contributed greatly to help ease the pain of tornado victims. Over the past few weeks, volunteers have combed area fields, picking up small debris left by the powerful tornado. For most of the volunteers, this was their first time on the disaster site, and quite naturally, they were shocked by what they saw.
Oh, it was very sad. To just imagine that homes were out here is kind of difficult, because walking through all the debris, everything is just, you don't find big pieces of much. I mean, everything is total devastation.
I saw it on TV, and what amazed me was the fact the aerial shots, there was absolutely no debris, meaning that everything that was picked up was pulverized. And now I'm down here walking through that same area, and it's just unbelievable.
For folks who could not make it out to the disaster site, there were several drop-off points for residents to donate food, clothing, and money. One such citizen even took time to fix a food truck used by the Salvation Army to take food and water to victims and volunteers.
There's 350 people in Jarrell, Texas that need this little wagon down there to give them something to drink or something to eat. And these people contribute their time year-round. And all I'm doing is contributing mine for a couple of 3 hours.
The American Red Cross has raised over $500,000 in their relief efforts. They have also provided victims with temporary lodging. Officials say that they could not have raised so much money without the support of the public.
It does our heart good to see how many people have come by.
Not only are the victims receiving help from the Red Cross, but they're also receiving assistance from organizations like the Salvation Army.
We are storing furniture for them at our first store warehouse for future needs when the victims finally get around to getting apartments or housing of some sort to try to get their lives back together again.
At one point, food and clothing donations had to be put to a halt as holding points were overflowing with items. However, throughout this tragedy, the people of Jarrell have been able to find some hope in all this devastation.
That's Lord.
That's Michael. Something to Michael. He did in 5th grade.
Oh.
Isn't it 5-2? I guess. Well, maybe May 2nd.
5th grade, section 2.
Some kind of timeline.
A timeline he had done. Oh, good. He got a check on it. 7X.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yes. So you guys trying to collect old memories? Fine.
Well, finding what we can from our home. Little pieces. Every little thing is something we wouldn't have had before. Because that was our house, and not much left.
That can be said for many of the victims of Jarrell, but the strength of this community is their ability to carry on. In Jarrell, LeQuin.
Well, when we return, we will recap the storms that ravaged Central Texas and observe 2 minutes of silence as we honor those people who lost their lives. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us this evening for our special coverage of the I-35 tornadoes. As you've seen, the tornadoes that cut through the heart of Central Texas last month had a lasting effect on many people. From Waco to Austin, Tuesday, May 27th, will be remembered for years to come. The devastation captured national attention as well. In fact, the media coverage in Jarrell became a virtual circus, flooding this small Texas town with reporters, photographers, and curious onlookers. Residents were forced into an unwelcome spotlight during their time of grief. Now, we are dedicating the final portion of this special coverage to the Jarrell tornado victims. because while many of us paid a price to Mother Nature with our possessions that day, the residents of Jarrell paid an even higher price with their lives. Our condolences go out to the families of those who died. Good night.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this 2-hour special on the coverage of the terrible tornadoes that came through Central Texas. You know, this event could happen again. As history tells us, Central Texas does get visited by severe weather. Tornadoes sometimes occur. Most occur in the months of April and May. And when severe weather strikes Central Texas, you can count on us here at News Strong 6 to keep you advised. We would also like to thank our sponsors tonight, Sam's Club for the videotapes. We'd also like to thank Vaughn Duplication Services and First National Bank of Temple for postage for getting these videotapes out to you. We'd also like to thank all of you for donating money to the Relief Fund for this videotape. On behalf of KCEN-TV's production staff, anchor staff, and weather staff, we'd like to thank you for watching and want to remind you that when it comes to weather, news, and sports in Central Texas, be sure to tune to News Strong 6.